This is a generational heist for the Toronto Maple Leafs as a brand new report has dropped revealing a shocking Leafs trade update surrounding one player in particular that has fans fired up. To break down exactly what that trade is not only does it reveal Brad Living's plans going forward, it reveals that he is up to something huge and a lot bigger than fans initially thought. We're going to break that down, as well as a few other interesting updates, folks, on this episode as the draft inches closer and closer and free agency begins to really pick up. Before we get into it all, if you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support over here as we're on the road to, of course, the big goal of 25,000 subscribers. Darius, a lot to go over today. All the talk has been on Mitch Marner, John Tavares. We have an interesting trade report to go over today and some rumors that have started to pick up, and it is surrounding both a player we've yet to talk about on the channel, but also a player going out that we've yet to talk about, at least in trade rumors here on the channel. And let's dive right into it. It is a familiar face if you're keeping up with some of the NHL free agency, and this is a part of the Athletic yesterday morning. So with Mitch Marner likely gone, the Leafs are going to be looking for some top six help on the wing. They have the money to take on JJ Peterka's next contract. The question is whether they have the trade assets to make it work. And the biggest asset the Leafs that have right now is Brandon Carlo, 6'5". He's only 28 and has 2 years left on his deal. And they're basically linking the Leafs to not only JJ Peterka, but saying that within a Brandon Carlo deal, things could work and be extremely interesting here. So Darius, this is something that not many people have really thought about yet. We've talked about a bit off camera about JJ Peterka. The fit's definitely there. And this again would line up with Elliot Friedman's report of trading a defenseman for a winger. And it's interesting because I didn't think they'd be interested in trading Brandon Carlo, but the more you think about it, it actually makes sense because he has the most value out of almost everybody on their team. Maybe not named, Chris Tanner, but even with the contract, Brandon Carlo, it's a very interesting proposal here.
Yeah, and a lot of different teams at this point in time have a lot of different needs, right? So I think that this trade at face value, we can kind of break it down. It does kind of make sense. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs, JJ Peterka is an RFA, right? So he might be offer sheeted. There's rumors that basically he wants to be traded out of Buffalo. Him and his agent want out. The Buffalo Sabres don't want to trade him, but if he does make it to July 1st, he will sign an offer sheet with another team because there's going to be one coming. So I would imagine he's going to be traded. And it does make sense. The contract, what he's going to make is probably going to be like $7 million. And for his point production on the Buffalo Sabres, he was almost a point a game player. That's actually really, really good value because I feel like if he was on another team, he'll really go off. Again, this is a smaller skilled forward, right? So take that with, what you will. Do with that with what you will. But I think it's a very interesting idea. And when you look at the Buffalo Sabres right now, they have a couple really good defensemen. They have Darlene, they have Owen Power. Bo Byram looks like he's on his way out, but he's on the left side as well. They need help on the right side. So Brandon Carlo in that way could make a lot of sense. I feel like that would be attractive to the Buffalo Sabres. Now, I'm not a big fan of trading players that you just traded, a lot for and a lot of really good assets for in Fraser Minten. I don't think that is fantastic. But if you could turn Fraser Minten into JJ Peterka, that's not bad either, right? So could make some sense at that level. But again, I would not trade Brandon Carlo. And again, I think that he would have to be included in this trade. It would make sense from the Buffalo Sabres point of view, but I wouldn't trade Brandon Carlo unless you know with absolute certainty that a guy like Aaron Ekblad is going to be coming in free agency, that you'd be able to, shore up the right side again with a guy like Aaron Ekblad. And he's going to be making a lot more, that's for sure, but he brings Stanley Cup winning pedigree, all of those things. We know that, and I don't want to turn this into an Aaron Ekblad thing, but I feel like you would need to know with certainty that a right shot defenseman of Aaron Ekblad's caliber would be coming via free agency, via another trade or something like that, in place of Brandon Carlo, because in that case, I would not trade Brandon Carlo. There's a reason you got out and got him, and the fact that he has, term left in his contract and all of that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing. It's too bad they don't need a left shot defenseman because the Leafs have one in Morgan Riley that could be up for trade, but it's a very interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, and obviously it would open up a hole. I have faith in Brad for living to plug that hole if needed. And here was a trade that has been kind of floating around a little bit. It is Brandon Carlo, Ben Danford, a fifth and a sixth for JJ Peterka and a defenseman back in Scott Mayfield. And of course, there's a 3-team deal, sending some more picks. So essentially, if you're the Leafs, you're giving up some stuff. You're giving up what's the equivalent of 3 or 4 picks here in exchange for, of course, you also got Ben Danford, one of your top defensive prospects. Now you're getting Scott Mayfield back, and again, this one's a hypothetical, it's a way that it works with the salary and everything like that. But again, you look at the way that things are going. If the Leafs were to trade Brendan Carlo just months after acquiring him, they better be sure to backup plan is to sign another defenseman in free agency. We all know tampering exists, so you're unofficially sign and seal. I'm a bit less worried, I think you are, on that front. Like, I think if they were to make a move for JJ Peterka, they surely will have a plan to get another defenseman. Now, there is a chance where, Buffalo says, okay, you have to make this deal now or else we're going to go elsewhere. And they just take a chance. They take a flyer on the trade and then figure the rest out after, which would be a little bit scary because they finally have their blue line shirt up. But Peterka, I'm a big fan, and again, there's a lot of noise, a lot of smoke surrounding Brandon Carlo being traded lately. And you think back now, again, we covered it in the video yesterday, the day before, about Elliot Friedman saying a defenseman for a forward. I didn't really put two and two together that it would be Brandon Carlo, but when you look at it, like if they're wanting and willing to do that, Carlo by far has the most value. His cap hit's not bad. He has term left on his deal, and he's still young. He's 28 years old. The trade would essentially be, and I'll ask you if you would do this in hindsight, and now people in the comments as well, a first rounder and Fraser Minton for JJ Peterka. That would essentially be what the trade is if you were to, and a half a season of Brandon Carlo went to nothing. So that's basically what the deal would be: Fraser Minton and a first for Peterka. In a nutshell, would that get the deal done now? Who knows? There's some rumblings of the third overall pick being thrown up in talks. I don't think there's much substantive, there. But JJ Peterka has some really solid, peripherals, some advanced analytics. But at the same time, you could say that his progression or production rather might regress a little bit. So a lot of up and downs here. But you pair this with the Elliot Friedman report about them being interested in trading a defenseman for a forward. It almost lines up too well here for the Leafs. Though again, if you don't think JJ is very good, of course you'd probably rather keep Brandon Carlo.
And listen, JJ Peterka, at least in my eyes, he's a fantastic player. Like I said, almost a point a game player last season on a horrifyingly bad Buffalo Sabres team. So imagine you put him with some more offensive firepower. I feel like he could be a 100-point player or close to a 100-point player. And there's your replacement for Mitch Marner in that case. But obviously, I'm just joking that you don't want to replace Mitch Marner 1-for-1. I don't even know if you can. I don't think that's the point. But adding a guy like JJ Peterka could make a lot of sense. Now, I don't know if it's very likely that the Buffalo Sabres even want to make a trade. It's probably in their best interest to get rid of JJ Peterka at this point in time instead of going to offer sheet territory and all of that stuff. But, it's going to get very interesting. But the thing for me that the Toronto Maple Leafs and what they can offer versus another team if they offer sheet him, and obviously the Sabres would get compensation in that way, is that I think that the Buffalo Sabres, whether they actually need it or not, want roster players, not just compensation, draft picks, stuff like that. Like people who can actually make a difference immediately on the team. And whether they actually should be going that way or not, or maybe it's just to look good in the media, to their fan base, stuff like that. Oh, look, we're acquiring actual players that can play on the team. I feel like that's what they want in a trade like this. And I feel like the Leafs can offer that. So it would be very interesting trading Brandon Carlo. Again, I don't think I would necessarily do this, or there would have to be other moving parts to the trade, which I'm sure there would be. There's no way this would be a 1-for-1 or anything like that. There would be draft picks involved, but the Leafs cupboard is very bare right now. And they have to be careful of certain things like this, maybe getting a little bit younger. And again, restocking through the draft this year and next year. They don't have a first round pick this year. So they're in a very interesting spot. This could make a lot of sense, but ultimately, I feel like he's not going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf at this point in time. And, in saying that, I don't know. Brandon Carlo, he could actually be on the way out. And I do wonder if they have something in place where maybe it is Aaron Ekblad or maybe somebody else. But again, Ekblad looks like he's leaving Florida at this point in time. Maybe you also go to Morgan Riley, completely rethink your defense. Maybe you try and get Bo Byram out of Buffalo as well, really make it a big splash and then reconfigure the entire team. Because kind of something I was talking about yesterday, you don't want to trade everyone and completely have a different team because you never know how that's going to go. But I feel like they want to create a bit of a different dynamic and change the DNA like Brad Living was talking about. So everybody who's new comes in, they've rebuilt the team a little bit in certain areas, and everybody comes in and goes, Austin Matthews is the captain. Everybody fall behind Austin Matthews. He's the leader, follow behind him. And let's see if we can win a championship. So I feel like that's kind of what they're trying to do, but it's difficult with the salary cap and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. This could make some sense, but ultimately, personally, I wouldn't trade Brandon Carlo. But if you know that something is that's better is waiting for you, then obviously you make those moves.
Yeah, I want JJ Peterka. I think he would be good. But again, let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Quickly, Sabres GM Kevin Adams avoid answering whether JJ Peterka has asked to be traded, which means, hey, he probably has asked to be traded. And quick note as well, supposedly it's going to be an interesting and long offseason for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like deals are going to be happening, but Brad's not going to stop July 10th. He's going to keep going all the way through and continuing to look to make this team better. And I'm excited. It's going to be a crazy, next few weeks. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And let us know down below, would you do a Brandon Carlo for JJ Peterka deal? Thank you guys for watching. See you later.